Okay, so last week you kicked my ass in a beatbox. So this week it's guitar solos, but you got to go first this time. How about that?
We didn't flip a coin, but you know that's fine. I'll call it. Are you ready for this?
What was that? Are you ready for this? You're about to get blown away like Marty McFly did in Back to the Future 1 when he turned the amp up too high. Right.
Wow, you're bleeding. You're officially a guitar god. Welcome to Sports Junkies.
Show number 2. I am Turley.
And I'm Kyle Robinson. Today's date is December 5th. Honestly, it's too damn cold for my liking.
I agree with that one. Kyle, what are we going to be talking about this week when it comes to wrestling?
I'm going to give you the Raw report. I'm going to take a detailed look at the 3-hour King of the Ring special from this past Monday. I'm going to give you what I consider the State of the TNA address. When it comes to football, my man.
Oh, football? I got all kinds of stuff for you. I'm going to blow you away this week because first we will have our top 2 games of the week, which will be the New England Patriots inviting the New York Jets into their home for an AFC battle. Also, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Baltimore Ravens this week. So 2 big-time division rivals going at each other in 2 separate huge games. I can't wait. Other topics, we will talk about the Indianapolis Colts and Peyton Manning, how they are having a down year to their standards at least. A couple big games from last week were all overshadowed by these distractions. James Harrison with another fine, his 4th of the season. Hines Ward lashes out at the NFL, the Titans and Texans, or better yet, Cortland Finnegan and Andre Johnson getting into a brawl, and Spygate 2, but this time it was Denver spying on San Francisco.
Also, we're going to introduce the new MMA segment. We're going to take a look this week at the future of Brock Lesnar in MMA and the UFC. I'm going to pose a question to everyone as to what they think should be the future of Brock Lesnar.
We may have a couple new members. I know in our promo we said we were supposed to have Mark Randolph doing hockey for us. Somehow or another that didn't happen. But we do have Ryan Pinkleton. I'm sorry, Ryan, if I just pronounced your name wrong. And we have Gene Gottish, as well as Brandon, and I don't know his last name.
It's Brendan Wiles, a good friend of mine. He signed up to do an MMA report. I'm hoping I can talk him into swinging into the studio with us and hopefully doing a cut here and there with us about MMA, let the man who knows what he's talking about. I think that pretty much covers our bases from top to bottom.
That is the show, and we will be jumping into that just in a few minutes. Welcome back to Sports Junkies. I'm Turley here with my man Kyle Robinson. Kyle, what's up?
My blood pressure.
Well, that's interesting. You're a little young for that, don't you think?
Not because I have hypertension or anything, I promise. I'm staring at a computer screen. I'm a geek. You put 2 and 2 together, man.
All right. Well, we're going to jump right in to the games next week and the Thursday night game that has already happened. Philadelphia Eagles almost blew an 11-point lead to the Houston Texans, but Michael Vick and the Eagles rallied back to win 34-24. Vick had 302 yards passing, a rushing touchdown, and 2 more passing touchdowns. So another MVP-like game for Michael Vick. Will he win the MVP? We will see. Funny story I looked up today about Michael Vick. He's bankrupt right now. He literally owes at least $2.5 million.
Good God.
Yeah, that's all from 2008 when he had his dogfighting thing going on, all his lawyers that he had to get, everything. He owes money to friends, etc. So, guy who could win most valuable player of the NFL could be in debt. That's amazing.
Yeah, you're telling me.
We'll kick off predictions for this week. It's San Francisco at the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to take Green Bay in this one, 28-17. Denver at Kansas City, KC 21-3 over Denver. Buffalo at Minnesota, Minnesota 17-10 over Buffalo. Jacksonville will win over the Titans 14-7. Yes, I know, the Titans suck. I'm sorry, okay? Cleveland at Miami in overtime. Cleveland will win it 17-14. Chicago at Detroit. Chicago will pretty much breeze by Detroit 28-14. Washington at the Giants. Giants destroying Washington 31-10. New Orleans at Cincinnati 24-21. Oakland at San Diego 23-21. Carolina at Seattle 10-3, a low-scoring defensive battle. St. Louis at Arizona, and St. Louis will stay tied for the lead in the West 24-14. And yes, I threw a little extra in there for your buddy Brandon since he wants us to talk about the Rams, okay?
Before we go any further, I got to say, it's pronounced, if I remember this right now, I hope I don't slaughter it. His name's actually Brendan.
Brendan, I'm sorry, Brendan. I'm sorry.
But you're right, the man has a problem with our whole football segment because we didn't have enough about the St. Louis Rams. Hopefully we tag that up a tidbit there, I'm hoping.
Well, from what you make it sound like, Brendan likes to argue, and so I'm going to do it all right here so he doesn't have a chance to argue with me. Brendan, when it comes to this show, we're national. We cover what's the biggest story, and as of late, the Rams haven't done anything huge. Yes, Sam Bradford looks like he's going to win Rookie of the Year. He's had solid games. It's been nothing amazing from Sam Bradford. Moving on, Atlanta at Tampa. Atlanta's going to win at 28-14. Dallas at Indianapolis. Dallas, a team on the rise, while Indianapolis, a team who seems to be falling apart. But Indy wins it 21-17 in a close game. We'll talk about the next two games a little bit later, Pittsburgh at Baltimore and the New York Jets at New England. Since we just hit on it, we'll talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Peyton Manning is having a very down year for his standards, but you also have to remember Peyton's, I do believe, 33 years old, so it's about time that the man starts declining. I think a lot of it was because he doesn't have any support this year. Lost 2 straight meaningful games these last 2 weeks, and that is something Peyton Manning just does not do. He hasn't done that since October of 2008. He's also lost 3 games in November, and that's the first time he's done it since 2001. That's a long time to go without losing 3 games in November, and not many teams in the NFL can do that. The Colts, for the first time since 2002, will win less than 12 games. Manning has thrown 7 interceptions in 2 weeks. This is Peyton Manning, the only player in NFL history to win the MVP award 4 times. But right now, the Colts are tied with Jacksonville atop of the AFC South with a 6-5 record, I do believe. They will face Dallas this week, as we said earlier, and I predicted that they would beat Dallas. We will see if Peyton Manning and the Colts can turn it around against a Dallas team who's pretty much hot and ready to kick some ass.
We hit this last week. We were talking about Brett Favre. I wanted to add a little bit here. You were talking about Peyton Manning and how he's getting older. History has shown us that just because age is just not a number. And if Brett Favre can continue to come back and throw the pigskin around like he has been, Peyton Manning could have quite a few years left in him. Yeah, he's having a down season, but, I don't think it has to do with his age. I just think he's having an off year. Everyone has one.
I don't think it has to do with his age. I didn't mean it that way. I meant it as, he's got no support this year. Half the offense is hurt. Reggie Wayne's a good receiver, but he can't do it all. Yeah, Dallas Clark was out for the season. I think he got hurt in week 3 or 4, and he's gone. That was Manning's main weapon right there. Other than that, he's using a bunch of young guys who don't have a whole lot of experience. His running game is just, Joseph Adai is nothing special. He's a solid halfback that will maybe start his entire career, but he won't ever be a Marshall Faulk, I guess you can say. Next thing we're going to talk about is James Harrison. I don't know if I agree with the NFL on how they keep finding this guy. James Harrison believes the NFL is targeting him for his hard hits. You can't sit there and do something for years. And Harrison, I do believe, is in his 5th, 6th, 7th year, one of those. He's been doing it for at least 5 years. And now, all of a sudden, you expect him to change the way he plays because you want to protect Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, which, by the way, we'll touch on that one a little bit later. He said he doesn't plan to change his ways, and I don't blame the guy. He's been fined $125,000 by the NFL since mid-October for 4 separate hits. His teammates argue Harrison's not a dirty player or reckless, but is being punished because his intense hitting potential endangers the playing status of some of the NFL marquee players, in other words, Peyton, Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, basically the quarterbacks. If you hit a receiver like Hines Ward and you knock him to the ground, Hines Ward's going to pop up because he's a man. He can take a hit. No taking down Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or any of them, but come on. Speaking of Hines Ward, because of this, Ward has lashed out against the NFL on Wednesday, claiming the league doesn't care about players. He blasted the NFL for
hypocrisy.
There you go. On a number of issues, including player safety, gambling, and the 18-game schedule. The league doesn't care about us, says Ward. They don't care about the safety of the game. If the league was so concerned about the safety, why are you adding 2 more games? That is a very good point. Can you argue with that? Why would you add 2 more games, yet you don't want players to get hurt?
That's true, but at the same time, you could play 18 games or you could play 2 games. The game is just as dangerous no matter what it is. I don't think that the extended schedule means that the NFL doesn't care, but it doesn't help, when guys like Ward have an argument like this. They need to put actual tougher laws in place for concussions, actual hard hitting on players from the get-go. Don't tag them, as they're, 5 or 6 years in.
Right. I agree, that you need to do something to make the league safer, but you're going about it the wrong way. Honestly, if they would have done this sooner, players like Steve Young would have stayed around for at least another 3 or 4 years. And Steve Young was one of the most exciting players to ever touch an NFL field. But because he played so risque, he got hurt. He ended up having, I think, 3 or 4 concussions in a matter of 2 or 3 years, and he had to quit before he ended up having brain damage. There's going to be changes to games because referees are so afraid of, oh my God, he just hit the quarterback. Do I throw a flag? So he's going to throw a flag automatically because he's scared that, if I don't throw the flag here, I could get fired because I'm not protecting the quarterbacks. That could cost a game, and Hines Ward has said it's going to happen in the playoffs. And if it does, Roger Goodell is going to look like a giant moron, which I love the way Goodell has gone about things since he's come into being the commissioner. But then again, it's also like, what are you thinking? He's done good things, like he's showed players that he's not going to deal with them going out and fighting with dogs, shooting themselves in the leg, getting fights in bars. Adam Pac-Man Jones, you haven't heard a lot about him since Goodell's come into the league because he told Jones, look, if you don't straighten up, you won't be playing in this league anymore. And he's done that with several players. Now, in Harrison's case, he's not really going out and causing trouble. The NFL's just afraid he's going to permanently end somebody's career. The next subject, the Titans and Texans fight. I'm a Titans fan once again, but I'm starting to get really tired of Cortland Finnegan because he completely instigated this entire thing.
I watched that video, and it was brutal. It was kind of sad to watch, even for me.
He instigated pretty much the whole thing, although he pretty much made Johnson so mad that it looked like Johnson started it. But if you watch the game, and you've watched games that these two have gone at each other before, in the first game that the Titans and Texans played this year, Johnson got fined for ripping Finnegan's helmet off because Finnegan is a very physical corner, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some of the best corners in history are physical like that. I think what Finnegan's problem is he's got little man syndrome. He's 5'8", 5'9", and Andre Johnson's got to be almost 6'3", 6'4". He's a tall guy. You got to do what you can to compete with someone like that. But he's taking it too far. He's causing brawls like there was. Finnegan got punched in the face at least a good 3 or 4 times. He got what he deserved, in my opinion. With stuff like that, the league's got to do something about a player like Finnegan. They didn't even suspend him. All they did was told him, oh, you got to pay a fine. You've got to sit out the rest of the game. Whoopity do. His team's going to have him next week, which gives him a better chance to win. I don't agree. I think he should have got suspended for at least 2 games.